Today, we're getting into another shakeup within the federal government, and we really haven't seen anything like this in recent history. We're going to explore the Trump administration's plan to dramatically reduce the size of the Office of Personnel Management, or OPM. And continuing further with reducing the entire federal government, let's get into it. OPM is the backbone of the federal human resources. It oversees everything from hiring to retirement of millions of federal workers. But OPM is under new leadership now. Elon Musk has personally placed individuals within OPM, and they're making moves like nobody's ever seen before. One of these moves was directly emailing federal employees. This happened a few days after Trump took office. Everybody was scratching their heads on this one. They were reporting it as phishing. They wouldn't even respond. But OPM was attempting, and have successfully done in many cases, connected with the employee, going around the agency. There are many layers within a federal agency. It's like a layer of bureaucracy. So instead of going through the secretary or going through the proper channels or the Office of Chief Human Resources, they're now touching straight to the federal employee. OPM is now preparing for massive cuts. As of March of 2024, OPM had 2,900 employees. The Trump administration has mandated a 70% reduction in OPM. That's not a typo. That's taking an organization that's roughly at 3,000 people and dropping it down to around 800, 870. This isn't just a cut, it's a carve out. During an internal meeting, OPM senior staff were directed to produce a staffing chart by Monday. It had to show how they could cut 30% immediately and then show the further path of how to get to 70%. They were instructed to focus only on what is absolutely legally required. Everything else is on the chopping block. This means potentially gutting major programs, from retirement programs to the health benefit processing. How are you going to determine what areas to cut when so much of what OPM does impacts millions of people? Now, if you're an employee at OPM, or if you're a federal employee, a lot of employees have been giving this chance, this incentive, this opportunity. They've been pushed somewhat into making a decision, and if they don't accept it, in the back of their mind, they're going to be thinking, is a rift coming? Is a reduction in force? Are layoffs going to be approaching? Because in many ways, that's the tone of the letter that was sent out to all these employees. Now, this shakeup at the OPM, this is a huge shift that's changing the way that this office is going to interact with the federal government. And it can even impact the veteran community, because when you're thinking about veterans' preference being applied when you're applying for jobs, that's coming from OPM. When you're thinking about showcasing your years of experience so that you can buy back your time, a lot of that's being facilitated through OPM. So it does have far-reaching impacts. But this story doesn't end with just OPM cuts. This administration is zeroing in on new hires. From the moment they asked you to submit a list up to OPM with everybody who was on probation, to now they're wanting more information. They want to know exactly what you do, what were your credentials, what is your experience. They're holding these little sessions where they're pretty much interviewing individuals to see what have you done for the organization since you've been here. Now, this has impacted 200,000 people at least, because when you first enter into the federal government, you are placed on probation. This is typically 12 to 24 months. In some cases, it can be 36 months. But that probationary period, you have no appeal rights as a federal worker. You can be fired for whatever reason. You are at will. So what we're seeing now is we're seeing political appointees, and specifically the example that's listed in the latest article is GSA. So an individual who used to work at Tesla, he's holding meetings and he's asking the people that are on probation, share some of your technical wins. Share some of the accomplishments that you have done since you've been in the office. Now, anybody who's ever been a federal employee, you know how it feels when you're on probation. It's a little worrisome. You get a little anxious, even if you're a high caliber type individual, because you know that at any moment in time, if there's a personality conflict or whatever the case is, you could be let go. And the main thing that attracted you to a government job more than likely was the stability and the security aspect of it. So this is really creating a lot more worry than the initial list was. One IRS employee was quoted saying, "I'm feeling nervous like most of my colleagues, but we will hold the line." This type of feeling is being echoed throughout all federal agencies. So usually when a group is attacked, they become stronger and they pull in together in order to defend against the attacker. That's kind of the mentality that you're seeing within a lot of federal agencies. You're seeing people now moving from the stage of fear and anxiety, and they're more in a determination type state. Like, we're going to hold the line and we're going to persevere regardless of all the attempts of trying to get us to resign or getting us to quit or getting us to change our job. We're committed to the American public and we want to continue to serve. But these are all just pieces of a broader strategy. And another piece that comes in is the revival of Schedule F. But it's not called Schedule F anymore. It's called Policy and Career. But this is a fresh attempt in order to ensure that civil servants are now at-will employees. And the main concern with this one is that federal agencies are supposed to be apolitical. And if they were not apolitical, if they had a political side, then every administration, the entire workforce, would essentially need to be wiped out and be placed with the new incumbent's workforce that share his ideology. That's not the way the federal government has been working. So what does this mean for the future? We might see a leaner, but potentially less effective government. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the Deferred Resignation Program. If you look on OPM, they updated a lot of their language on the FAQs, and the way they updated it, it is to provide further assurance that if you take it, you're actually going to get full pay and benefits until September 30th. And it also clears up a few different areas, one of them being, if your agency were to offer an early retirement, then you can still take advantage of it even if you have resigned. It says that if you're furloughed due to the continuing resolution expiring in March, then you're going to get back pay like the rest of the federal employees. So it's further trying to convince you to take it. If you speak with your supervisor in the federal government, the supervisor is not supposed to sway you one way or the other. So as you're asking questions and interacting with your supervisor, they're just going to be acknowledging you. Okay. And in many cases, they really don't know much more than you know, because all guidance appears for right now to be coming from OPM. They pretty much circumvented HR for the time being. So they're not going to know that much. I ran a poll recently. Out of 2,000 people that have responded, we have around 18% or so. So about 300 people are probably going to be taking it from that small poll. Now, the three groups I would say that are probably most likely to take it, I would say, number one, people on probation. And I say that because they're scared already. They know they're at-will employees, so they might look at the situation saying, okay, I'll take 8 months of pay rather than nothing, rather than get terminated next month. So a lot of people on probation, especially I would say in the agency of the IRS, maybe education, maybe EPA, they might be persuaded to do it. The second group I think really will come from people that are about to retire. They're really close to retiring and they might jump on that opportunity as well. And then there's a third group that these are individuals with high value IT skills that have connections in other companies. So maybe they know somebody in a contracting company, maybe they know someone at Amazon, and they have the certifications and they have the skills. They're going to be able to make that transition quick. Because if you're not in one of those three categories, what you should understand about the job market is at times it can take longer than 8 months to find your next job. If you've been out of the job market for a while, it can take a year. In some cases, it could take longer than that, depending on your location, depending on your skills in your network, because it all comes back down to that eventually. But if you are somebody thinking about taking it and you just want to relax, or like they say in the letter, have a nice vacation, then you should probably not be in that mindset. Prioritize looking for your next job if you want to take it. Now, this is still estimated to be at 5 or 10%. So we're still looking at potentially 200,000 people or more that might exit this way. And then we will also have, at some particular point, there will be, traditional buyouts like the VSIP. So that's going to take a chunk. We're in a hiring freeze. So we're losing people essentially every day in a lot of agencies. Of course, with these orders and unprecedented moves, we're going to see a flurry of lawsuits. They're going to be coming one after another, and there's already been over a dozen filed. So we're going to have to see the impact of that as well. If you're still interested in getting a federal government job, You should know that there's a lot of agencies, they're still hiring despite the hiring freeze. You have the DoD, the DHS, the VA, among others. So if you're trying to get into the federal government, you should really know the entire process from when you set up your account to apply to actually accept the final job offer. If you're interested in that, then I want you to check this video out next. If you need a federal resume example, check out the links down below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.